Hey guys, how you doing? I'm gonna make another little video here at work today in the shop. Got a 1983 Ford motorhome. Front tank wasn't working. When you switch the valve, it would die. I already have the new valve installed, but now we gotta wire it up. So there's not too many options on these switching valves. That's the new one. Should have probably started the video a little earlier. And this is the old one right here. So you can see it's a little bit different. Fuel lines are all the same, but it has a different connector. And the connector's on the wrong side with this one. And we're also gonna have to make a mounting bracket because that one bolts on wrong. It's either that or it wouldn't work the other way either, I don't think. So plan on just making a metal bracket come up over the frame this way. That way I'm not rubbing down and chafing on these wires, and I can hold this up properly out of the way. Next thing I got to do though is figure out all this, all the wires for the fuel pump, or for the fuel switching valve to this switching valve. Tried finding a wiring diagram. I got the factory wiring diagram, but it's pretty vague, kind of a lot of tracing. And I got this is the part number for the switch we're putting in. This is standard products. It's about all I can find online for it. There's this instruction set, The fuel tank valve selector does come with a new connector. So I was trying to kind of go through and decipher which wires do what. The kit also comes with a new 6-way switch. The RV already has one in there. I might have to pull it out. Hopefully I don't. Hopefully we could just figure this out without having to get too crazy here. So first thing I was going to do is try to find our 12-volt power source in off this wiring diagram right here. Sorry guys, I always just do my videos on the fly. Never really think about this. So it's like we got one power from our switch right here, which goes down to terminal E, and also traces over here to fuel filter.
Can pull the training cam up there?
Yeah, we're looking at it. And this one goes to the sending unit, fuel gauge. Looks like A, B, and C are all fuel gauges. So that means D, E, and F should be fuel pump power. Fuel pump should actually ground through the frame. So, and this is factory wiring diagram here. Damn phone's kind of blurry. It looks like our trying to trace this back and find which one's power, but I'm going to probably just use my power probe here. So red and yellow, 640. Try to trace this out. Second one down. And it goes to the, should be a main power. So then, yeah, we should be able to, with the red and yellow, should be our main power, and our main power should come from fuse box, and it goes to the switch, So, let's see, turn the key on here. I'm on the rear tank right now. Come back down. So what I use a lot, I use a power probe clamshell. It has the voltmeter. These damn one-handed videos. And then what I also do, I'll take a regular normal test light and attach it to the ground on the power probe. Should have been a little more prepared, but. And then I'll put a multimeter lead because the power probe will give me voltage readings. And then the test light will also tell me if I got solid power and ground. But as you can see, the test light don't really fit in this connector. Then we have to deal with the red and yellow wire as our main power to the fuel tank switch. So. See if that works. Kind of give it's not too bad of a view, I don't think. Check it out here in a minute. So red and yellow is the main power. So it's showing on my meter, 11.3 volts. So we got power there. And so what the switch will do is switch the power to the fuel pump. And so that's a ground. The orange is ground. 12 volt, ground, ground. Also too, like we'll use this back probe pin. Now I got power, but I like to make sure to light a test light. Test light draws a couple amps power. Make sure you got good connections in there. This connector's a little, haven't seen better days. I probably should just go ahead and cut it off here. By looking at the wiring, grab a pair of cutters. Grab this other wiring diagram. Well, go ahead and just snip one wire at a time, because I do have power to it. Go through cutting more than one wire at a time, you can end up causing more problems. I want to try to always leave the wire as long as you can. I'm going to try to pull this wire harness out a little bit more, a little better accessible. There's another zip tie right there. That one. I don't know. That's as long as it's going to go. Okay. So some factory zip ties down there. Open these up a little bit. Because before I make final connections, I'm going to just twist all these wires together and see if I can't get it working. Make sure the truck starts. I know both fuel pumps are good. Tested them. It runs on the front tank, on the rear tank. Switch the front, it would die. Wasn't getting power to the pump. So then the red and yellow wires are main power. I got the connector. Dang it, I forgot to grab the wiring diagram. So let me grab that wiring diagram. Alright. So I know A is the top. So connector A on the sending unit. Sending unit connection. B. No. Yeah, sending unit connection. B is fuel gauge. C is sending unit connection. So I'm not going to worry about these three yet because I'm more concerned about making the pump work on the right tanks. So I'm just going to go ahead and put these three up out of my way for a minute, because then we only got to worry about two wires right here now. Powers to the fuel pump, it looks like. And so E on this wiring diagram comes from the switch. So I should have one hot in. Hopefully I don't have to switch this. So I'm going to stick that in there. Turn this buzzer on, about 11.3 volts. I'm going to switch the tank valve. And I lost power there. And see which one it goes to now. Now it goes to brown. So it indicates my switch is working. So my brown is my front tank. And this one is nothing. So these are going to be my two power wires for my fuel pumps. Red and yellow is going to be my front tank, or my rear tank. Brown and orange is going to be my rear tank, or front tank. So, hopefully you can still see there. Kind of want to go through this process. Hopefully the video comes out alright. So, red and yellow is front tank, or rear tank. Brown and orange is front tank. These three should be for fuel gauges. So we'll get there in a minute. Yeah.
Wheel cylinders?
Yeah.
Rear?
Yeah.
Does it come with everything?
That's all I need, wheel cylinders.
No seals?
Nope. You want me to call them? Well, actually, it shouldn't really be. Won't really tell me which one's supposed to be powered to what in this damn diagram. So I'll clean these up a little bit. I'm just going to take a guess here. I'm going to put E to the red and yellow on the rear tank, and D to the front tank. And go ahead and see if it starts. Don't let those wires touch the frame. So it's starting, running. I don't know if the fuel pump's running. So we'll feel the front pump running. We'll check to see if the back pump's running. Actually, see if I can get my test light up in there. Still give it a little rev. So it actually looks like it's right and it's working properly. So we'll go ahead and switch it over to the rear tank now and make sure it stays running. Well, it sounds like it's still running on the rear tank. I can tell my front fuel pump turned off and my rear tank's on. So, looks like that's the way to hook up the front and rear tanks at the switch with the switch that's already installed in the vehicle. Now what we're going to have to do is figure out which tanks, the front tank and the rear tank, and which one goes to the gauge on the switch, or on the motorhome. And just diagram. So, now on the switch, connector, fuel gauge is B. So just using logical thinking, knowing that as the connectors go down, A, B, C, D was the front tank, and E was the rear tank. I'm assuming A is going to be the front tank, and C is going to be the rear tank. And according to the diagram, this is the one for the fuel gauge in the vehicle. What we're going to do now is figure out which one actually goes to the fuel gauge in the vehicle. One way you can do that, quick test, is ground out the wire. Older vehicles usually use an ohms resistor in the fuel tank for the fuel gauge to work. So I've grounded the dark green wire. Trying to look at this diagram. It's green and red, green and red. Well, I only got one green and red. And my orange. Orange looks like it's supposed to be power. Go ahead and check that. The ground. I know that one's grounded. We got 8.8 volts there. So, assuming grounding that one should make the fuel gauge work. Okay, so I was right about the green wire right there. The green wire on this is for the fuel gauge. So now we just got to figure out which tank's front or rear. So let me go ahead and clean this one up, twist it together. I usually like to use wire nuts, household wire nuts, but I don't have none at work. I don't know why. So we know that one's to the fuel gauge. Let me double check my fuel gauge right there. See if it went back down to empty. Yeah, it's slowly creeping down, as you can see, because now there's no ground to it. Biggest thing's going to be figuring out which of the other two chassis wires is the front tank and the rear tank. You can see right now I'm still on the rear tank. I'm going to go ahead and switch it back to the front, just make sure it keeps running. I always like to make sure everything works, especially since at the shop people are paying good money for stuff. So, make sure we still got good view there. That's not too bad. Maybe that helps a little. So we got orange and green and red. So this is showing the orange, dual tank only. Goes up through a printed circuit board. And don't really give me a lot of information. Another one is green and red. And it kind of goes over to something else. Problem is I know both tanks are full on this. So just gonna kind of wing it. If nothing else comes back, I know what two wires I gotta switch. Go ahead and put this one on. There. I guess I could probably go back over here to the kind of see the front fuel tank connector. Now that I got running the exhaust is all good and hot. Can't really see none of the wires. Right there. The harness come up right there. Harness is actually sealed up pretty well. So So it looks like the green and red is for my front fuel tank. So I'm going to go ahead and assume that this front one, A, is for the front fuel tank. A is for main fuel tank. So go ahead and switch this one right there. I know the green and red is the fuel tank level sensor by checking the wiring at the fuel pump sending unit. So go ahead and put that in there. Go ahead and find my C wire right here. Orange is more than likely. Well-educated guess, that's going to be the rear tank sending unit level sensor wire. And I know it's a little messy right now, but vehicle is running. So let's come back out here, and looks like our fuel gauge is now reading 3/4. I'm down on the front side. Actually, gauge is creeping up slowly. Van's still running on the front tank. Go ahead and switch it down over to rear. And watch our fuel gauge. I know the rear tank's full too, so we're probably not going to see much difference. But by breaking down the wiring, even though I had the factory wiring diagram, it's 1983 technology, and wiring diagrams aren't as nice back then as they are now. So hopefully this will help some guys out switching your fuel tank switching valve. What I would do next, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and heat shrink all these connections and solder them all together. That way it's all work. You got good solid connections, and build a bracket. So hopefully this will help you guys out with the wiring. All right, thanks.